Hey everyone, welcome to the Tom's Hardware podcast for today, uh, September 17th, 2024. Uh, I, I am the only one here right now. Hi, it's Avram, editor-in-chief of Tom's Hardware. Normally, I'm joined by Associate Les Pounder, who's not feeling a bit under the weather today. We're also supposed to have a special guest, but we might have had a problem with the timing because I haven't seen him log on. So we'll give it a few minutes uh, and and chat. For those of you who are watching us now, um, please, if you have any questions for me about anything related to Raspberry Pi or other tech stuff, we'll take it there. I'm very happy uh, to to answer your questions. Uh, I guess while we'll give it a few minutes and see if our guest is able to make it. If not, maybe we'll end early. But meanwhile, um, if anyone is on, of course, you can chat in we'll be answering your questions. One thing I've been kind of wondering about, and I know there are ways to do this, is some new and exciting ways to use one's Raspberry Pi with RetroTech. And I'm thinking about if anyone has used this. Oh, hey, Kyle is here. All right, let's add him and we can get started. Hi, Kyle. Uh,
Hi.
Hey, so everyone, this is Kyle. Am I pronouncing it right?
Wiens, yeah.
Wiens, the CEO of iFixit, which is, I'm sure we've all heard of an amazing company that not only sells some really great products, but also is really on the cutting edge of advocating for the right to repair. And of course, um, this week, or actually it was last week, iFixit came out with a new soldering iron, which is really cool and a new kind of new direction for the company. It's something we need for all kinds of projects, Raspberry Pi projects or not. So, Kyle, I'm kind of curious. Can you tell folks about yourself and how you got started with iFixit?
Sure, absolutely. I am a software engineer by trade. And I built the technology that runs iFixit. iFixit is a collaborative step-by-step wiki for how to fix everything. And I got into it because I was trying to fix my iBook back in the day. And yeah, I was a poor college student and I dropped it on the power plug and it was a little bit, the connection was a little bit loose. And it's like, this is probably just a busted solder joint. I can fix this. And so I started to take it apart and realized very quickly I was in over my head and a service manual would be nice. So I just Googled for the service manual, couldn't find it anywhere. So I bumbled my way through the repair. My grandfather had given me a soldering iron when I went to college, so I used it. I soldered it back together. Got the computer back together mostly. I mean, it worked. It was never quite perfect because I didn't know the right way to take it apart. And then afterwards, I was like, why wasn't the manual available online? And I did some sleuthing, and it turns out it had been online several different places, and Apple had sent DMCA takedown letters to everyone that posted the manuals. I was like, this is crazy. Why can't we know how to fix our stuff? And so that motivated me to just write my own manual to replace the one that Apple had taken down. And that was 20 years ago. We've been doing it ever since. That really was the beginning of the whole thing. Was just show me how to take my laptop apart. Dang it.
Yeah, I mean, what your company does is just so important because it's really, opened up uh, more conversations about our right to modify and repair things that we bought and paid for, which obviously folks who are in the tech community and the maker community, like they don't want a sealed box. They want to be able to do things. So what uh, what led you from just doing straight like instructions and advocacy to selling products?
We we realized fairly quickly like the goal is to enable people to fix things. And when it comes to repairs, if you don't have the part, if I tell you how to replace the battery in your phone and I can't get you a battery, it's not a very helpful repair guide. So I really feel like you have to have the tools, you have to have the parts, and you have to have the information. If you don't have any one of those three things, a repair just doesn't happen. You throw the thing away and you go about your life. So we've been really focused from the beginning on all three. Let's get people the tools that they need to disassemble whatever it is. And, we sell toolkits. So like this is a kit with all the individual bits that you need. This is the iPhone bit and everything else. And then repair guides for everything.
Yeah, and the quality, I mean, like I love my iFixit screwdriver set. It's like the best set that I've used. So, how did you go about like not just coming out with Me Too products, but coming out with products that are actually like superior to other products in the marketplace?
I mean, this is one of those you just have to sit and really think about it. We spend a lot of time, like with every screwdriver handle, we'll make 3D print a whole bunch of mock-ups, and then we'll get people with every possible hand size in, and we're testing. We're like, how does this feel? And we get women with small hands and guys with giant hands, and right, what's something that's going to work for everybody? Uh, Also, just doing a lot of repairs. We used to, so we fly all over the world to do our teardowns. So we'll go to Australia to get the iPhone before anybody else. And so you're thinking about like if I was like, okay, you're going to Australia to take apart a phone you've never taken apart before, you're gonna fill your suitcase with tools, right? Because who knows what you are gonna hit. And so we did
Right.
that. We had a suitcase full of tools, and it evolved over the years. And over time, we were like, can we consolidate this down? Like we know what we're doing now. And so that was eventually what evolved into our ProTech toolkit was like this is literally everything that we really actually use from our suitcase. We consolidated it down to a tool roll.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing, like how just the really great quality of everything, like the bits and the screwdriver, everything is like really, really high end, this, as is the soldering iron. So, what gave you the idea to get into soldering irons?
Well, that my original experience with my iBook was interesting. All right, so obviously soldering is a part of a electronics repair repertoire, right? You really don't have a fully baked electronics workbench if you don't have a soldering iron. And so we've been kind of systematically working through and saying, all right, what are the necessary tools? Okay, we've got screwdrivers. We've been working on a variety of other, heating tools, ways of really filling in at that entire workbench. And the piece that we hadn't been able to tackle yet, really honestly hadn't had the resources to tackle, was a soldering iron because we didn't want to do just another plug into AC mains. We wanted to take it to the next level. And so as we started looking at what would it take to do a soldering iron, the thing that drove me crazy, I was installing a stereo in my car, and I had to like run an extension cord out to the car, and then I've got this like hot 700-degree stick like balanced on my lap as I'm sitting in the car soldering the wire. Like, there's got to be a better way. So we said, can we do a pack? But we wanted enough power to be able to solder for hours, not just for a few minutes. And so there isn't enough space inside an iron to have a long enough lasting battery. So our solution was a iron, so super ergonomic, just like our screwdrivers, with a portable battery pack. So this guy here is a 55 watt hour battery pack. You can I can plug the iron in here. It's a USB-C connection. So we believe in standards, and then this can mount right in there. So I can use it like a soldering station on my desk, or I can take it and I can have it work in my car. And what's nice about it is I have this handy little cap. So the challenge with using any soldering iron is you heat it up, and then now you got the 700-degree hot stick. Well, you put it in the cap, and then instantly that's safe to handle, and I can stick it in my pocket. I can stick it in my shirt. I'm not worried about it. And then also having something that heats up quickly. So with the, I'll hold so you can see the temperature reading. So I'm gonna flip it on. And this actually my battery is almost dead in this battery pack because I've been doing tests with low battery state. But it'll with a full charge battery, it'll get to temp in about 5 seconds. With a dead battery, it'll get it in 20 seconds or something.
Yeah, that's really impressive. That was something that really blew Les away was just how quickly it heated up. I think having that cap is so important. one of the things that's really frustrating about some of the cheap soldering irons that people get is that they don't come with a stand or an easy place to put them, and so you have them on the desk, they're round, and then want to roll around on your desk a really hot piece of metal. So that's like it's really good to be able to have something where you can attach it to the battery and you could just take it to go, because you're right, it is a pain. You want to be able to solder anywhere. So having the battery power and the battery pack
Right.
is 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 really, really key.
Yeah.
Be able to go to something like, I could see people taking this to like a maker space or something
Mhm.
like that. I mean, yes, you might have an outlet at a maker space, but you might be sitting far from an outlet, right? So you
Yeah, just
might.
having that validated, right? Like having it be easy. If we look at think about how many people out there know how to solder or have soldered before, right? It's far less than 1% of the population has ever touched a soldering iron. Like people are terrified of soldering. And the moment you mention, oh, the repair involves soldering, like people just, right? It's like a third rail. They just throw up their arms like, oh my God, I would never do that. Well, why, right? Why is soldering so scary? And I think the fundamental reason is like you got this hot thing, like I might burn myself. What am I doing? And so we really set out what can we do to systematically demystify that. Part of it is let's not have to be plugged into the wall, but also then what are all the safety systems that we can build in so that just by default it's safe and you're not going to burn yourself. Um,
Yeah, one thing that I certainly hear from like my son who's 12 and I want to get to be doing soldering is he's afraid of the fumes. And like my solution for that is kind of clunky, which is to get a fume
yeah,
sucker, which is another part you have to buy and takes up a lot
yeah,
of space. I don't know if there's any like easy way to do it, but with yours you could take it outside. So I mean that
right.
might
Take it
actually help.
outside, have a little fan. We have. I'll post in the chat. Maybe you can share it with everybody. We have a guide on how to use so the box that our product comes in, how to turn the box into a fume extractor, just with a PC case fan and a little battery. Um, so because a fume extractor is really just a fan with a filter. You just want to pull the fumes away from what you're working on. But yeah, I agree. Just go outside, and also if you're using lead-free solder, you're kind of less worried about it. By the way, the smoke that comes up, that's the resin, is basically tree sap
Right.
that you're heating up. It's not really any different than having a campfire.
Yeah. I mean, I find that I get like a little bit of a sore throat from it, but I don't know it's really harmful, but I think but that's one of those things that people have to kind of learn to deal with. But being able to take it by a window or take it outside because you have the battery, I think is a big help for sure, making it make it easy. I think another thing I think folks have a lot of issues with. I personally am not great at this. Is holding whatever you're trying to solder. So,
Yes.
you know, getting the right, like I've gotten some of these, getting the right thing to sort of, if you're taking like a microcontroller board and you're trying to solder pins onto it, you want to have one that um, you want to
Yes,
have
I've
one
got
that's
something to show you because
yeah.
because like third hands are janky and difficult to work with. So we made
Yes.
this thing. So we call this the solder splint, and it's got little jaws, and you stick the wire in both sides, and it grabs onto the wire, and then you can just solder in between. And it's magnetized. So got here, I've got it. It'll just stick to my. So you can stick it to any surface if you're in your car and you need to join a wire, you can do it. Um, we found this solves. You can also like stick a circuit board in there and solder on it. Uh, this is a pretty simple, inexpensive approach to solving that. How do I hold the wires? I need three hands. Well,
But
this is
yeah,
kind of more
yeah.
useful than a third hand.
Yeah, I find the third hand stuff is very expensive and annoying and takes up a lot of space too. Uh, so that's uh, definitely a big issue, particularly when you have something where you have to kind of go against gravity, because one thing that we deal with a lot, I don't know if you do a lot with Raspberry Pi, but one thing that we deal with is like there's certain types of Raspberry Pi, like a Zero or a Pico, where you want to put pin. You get a set of like pins that you're putting in, like 40 pins, and then to make them, you have to like solder the bottom of them, but you have to kind of turn it over to do it because you're soldering like sort
Right.
of against gravity.
Right.
So that's having something to hold your board in place or whatever is really um, kind of a key issue that I think people have with it. But then that's also why having being able to easily mount, put a cap on it while you're doing that is good too.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's just really helpful to just know that, like, this thing, I mean, right now it's sitting at 250 degrees Celsius and I can just pick it up and it's no problem. I would be concerned about waving around a traditional soldering iron that was that hot. And I got to say, I've been using this thing for months now. It's been in development. I've been working on the software for it. And I haven't burned myself yet, which is shocking. I'm sure. I'm sure I will at some point. But it's got the orange indicator. It says, "Hey, I'm very hot right now," and you got the temperature. It's sitting at 315. It's got an automatic idle timer as well. So one thing we hear a lot from people is that, like, tip management. You burn through tips. How often are you having to change tips? So we looked into it. We're like, well, why are people wearing out their tips so often? And it turns out the reason is that you have your traditional plug into the wall iron, you turn it to 11, you're using it, you set it down, and while you're spending a couple months figuring something out, it's sitting there and it's baking at 300 C, 400 C, right? Well, it's at those high temperatures that you get the oxidation on the tip. So we realized that if we can identify when you're actively soldering and only have it at
mm,
those high temperatures when you're soldering, the tip lasts dramatically longer. So it comes with an idle timer where just by default, after 30 seconds of inactivity, where it's got an accelerometer in it, so it knows when I'm holding it.
mm.
When you set it down, after 30 seconds, it drops to about 200 C, just kind of below that oxidation threshold where it will stay hot and ready to go. So you pick it up and it heats up within 2-3 seconds. You're ready to go right back at
Wow, that's great. Also, consider, I mean, all the times, right? Because your soldering iron heats up so quickly, people aren't going to feel so bad about like having it go to sleep, right? Because if you're waiting 30 seconds or a minute to get back to temperature,
it.
then
Right.
you don't want to turn the temperature down because you
Yeah.
don't want to have to wait.
I think that's the typical experience with a soldering iron, right? You get it, you plug it into the wall, you go away for a couple minutes while you wait for it to heat up, you come back and you work. And that's not how this is at all. This is from ambient temperature to fully ready to solder temp in under 5 seconds.
Wow, that's
And that's
that's
the magic of having 100 watts in a compact package like this. It's a full 100-watt heating solution. So when you have 100 watts of heat we can dump into it, it's pretty impressive, and it acts like a much more powerful desktop soldering station because of how rapidly it can recover. So you put it into to solder and it starts pulling heat out of the tip, and it's regenerating that with 100 watts very, very rapidly. That's kind of the magic of having a microcontroller in the iron, and then with a buck boost converter to get up to high voltage, and then the heating element is actually in the tip, so it's not heating down here and passing all the way. The heating element is right next to where you're working.
wow, fantastic. So what's the most complicated thing you've soldered with it?
I have been doing lots of like little trivial little demos because we've been so focused on the iron. I haven't been doing so. It's not so complicated. Really, the question is, what's the longest we've soldered with it? People are like, well, what's the battery life? Right? You got a 55-watt-hour battery. How long will it last for? So we've been kind of passing this around the office. Like, can someone figure it out? And the answer is a lot. It's closer to like how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Like, are you willing to sit here and solder as long as this battery lasts? Um, we did we did 500 through hole soldering joints in about 2 hours, and so our extrapolation is that 8 hours of active like production soldering is what the battery pack will last for. It's a
Could
lot.
you
No one's
if
soldering for that long unless you're working in a factory.
so if you a lot of people have USB batteries around and you sell the soldering iron by itself, can it work with other batteries, or does it
Yeah.
need something special?
It doesn't need anything special. The iron. So if you buy just the iron, it comes with the cap and the iron and this silicon USB cable. Which, by the way, I can try to solder cable, and the cable is perfectly happy getting hot. So this is a silicon wrapped cable, and yeah, you can use it with any USB power delivery power supply. So anything that's relatively modern battery pack or wall wart AC adapter will work just fine. We generally recommend at least 25 watts of output to be able to solder it decently. We have an AC adapter that's 65 watts. That's pretty good. You just want to be able to provide enough power to the
So what's like what so USB PD, what mode, like what's the I mean, I know PD goes into different voltages and amps, so like
yeah.
what's the voltage mode you need to make it work?
It will auto negotiate and make it work, but I've got a handy dandy USB PD uh, tool here. So this will actually give you like a real time graph of what's going on. We don't make this thing. This is just, let's see if I can get it to come
Ooh, I need
up.
one of those. That's
It's
cool.
pretty cool. So it's PD 3.0. Let's see if I can get the focus. 3.0. It's pulling 18 watts at 12 volts right now. Is what it's reading. But it'll auto negotiate. It's pretty smart and it can handle
Right.
just about anything.
That's
Someone came by with a Rivian the other day,
mm,
and so we plugged it in and we were using it has a kind of an old it's not PD at all, and so it will work on non PD power supplies. You're just going to get a lower power output. I have a framework laptop here, which is an awesome machine. This is the framework 16. It's fantastic. It's got the modular ports, and
yeah.
you get 5 watts out of those ports. 5 watts is enough to heat up very slowly and melt solder if you're patient. It's
Ah,
not enough to work, but you can. So you can plug it straight into your laptop and get it
ooh,
eventually.
that that's pretty cool. So, um I happen to have I know I happen to have a ThinkPad in this office that Lenovo sent me to test that they said was iFixit. I don't know if it's iFixit certified, but iFixit recommended.
Yeah.
Uh, how did you get into the business? Do you have that relationship with a lot of vendors, or is this the only one? And do you do that a lot?
We're doing more and more work directly with manufacturers. What we found was the world had forgotten how to fix things, and so as it becomes increasingly important as products are lasting longer, we want to be able to maintain the things that we have. We've been doing more design consultations with manufacturers. So in the case of the ThinkPad, one of the things we said was, "Hey guys, you got rid of the upgradable memory. We like SODEMs. Can you bring those back, please?" And they said, "Oh, okay. So you wanted that after all? Sure." And so they brought back upgradable memory, which is fantastic. So we're really excited about it. It's their kind of flagship business
The
laptop.
T14, it's the
Yeah,
T14.
yeah. The T14 is kind of their go-to business laptop. So I think their best-selling laptop in many parts of the
Yeah,
world.
yeah, but still they don't do it on the thinner laptops like the 14S or the X1 Carbon. So and now of course we're seeing RAM built onto the CPU, but that's kind of another problem.
But the X1 team, I think they're working on. I think we announced with them that they're adding. So upgradable memory is important. SODIMM is kind of an old form factor, and so now we have LP Cam. This really exciting new memory form factor. And so Lenovo was the first to announce LP Cam 2 with DDR5 memory. And so we're actually selling a kit from Micron or from Crucial that is a full LP cam upgrade, and then Lenovo has the first laptop that has LP cam, which is pretty darn cool.
That that is
And that's
cool.
the ThinkPad P1, the new P1, which is a thinner laptop. That's the first one to support
That's cool. I mean, it is really good to see like the advocacy work that you're doing here really paying off for consumers. Uh, who want to be able to upgrade their stuff, want to be able to build their own stuff, want to be able to repair their own stuff. I think, like, what you're doing here is something that I think we've all, in the tech enthusiast community wanted, which is to have back some of the flexibility that we used to have
Right.
years ago. Um, what
Yeah,
are
it
some of the
used to be the default. Now we have to fight for it.
Yeah, like I feel like batteries have also become much more difficult on everything to change. Is
But
that
we're starting to see changes on that as well. So, you know, we work in a friendly fashion with manufacturers when we can. Sometimes we go to regulators and we say you need to do something. We've been doing work. iFixit we have a full time staff member in Brussels working on European policy, and we have for over 10 years now. And that's starting to see some results. So there's an upcoming battery directive that's requiring user replaceable batteries on a variety of products. And I think you're going to see some news. There's some rumors around the iPhone 16 that Apple is switching to an easier to remove battery process. So we're really excited. Our teardown on Friday, so we've got a whole bunch of iPhones on order, and we're gonna check them out. But we're optimistic that there will be a totally new process for removing the battery that will be easier.
do
And I
companies
hope
help
that's
you?
going in.
Do companies help you with the teardowns, like, or or are they like hate it that you do it?
Yeah, so we're always out buying devices at retail, just like Consumer Reports and other folks. So we get the full retail experience. We're not generally working with companies. Sometimes they will they'll send us a service manual or something, which we appreciate, and you do get points if you commit to making a service manual available publicly. But usually we're kind of on our own. Uh,
Yeah, everybody loves those teardowns. I mean, it's such a cool thing to see. Uh, do you ever run into a problem where, or do you or your people ever run into a problem where you haven't been able to get to something or to take something apart without destroying it?
oh yeah, I mean the other day we did the new Samsung Galaxy Ring, right? So it's a glue. I mean, there's a metal outside and there's a flexible PCB, and it's all encased in epoxy. Like, how in the world are you ever going to like? There's no even discussion of repairing or recycling or anything. This right? It's just a and so in the case of that one, we actually we got a CT scanner. We looked at it with a CT scanner first, and we went ahead and did the disassembly. But like, I'm not even going to show you the picture because it's a very disappointing picture. Like, it's just not an interesting thing to disassemble. You're just going to have a destroyed circuit board and bits of glue. And but with the CT scan, you really can see how it's all assembled, and it's pretty neat.
What do you
Have you-
what do you feel
AirPods.
manu Oh, I'm sorry, you were gonna say?
I was just gonna say AirPods are another example of a product where we really struggle. Usually, there's a little bit of blood on our workbench afterwards.
Uh, what do you feel like manufacturers are not transparent enough about?
Well, service documentation needs to be front and center, and that service documentation needs to include the circuit schematic. So it's not good enough to have just the this is how you open it. We need to know, hey, this power IC is connected on this line, so that when people there's a lightning strike or something, or someone plugs into a bad AC adapter, we can go in and do repairs on individual circuit boards. We should be looking at uh, a PCB itself is a collection of components. That throwing away a PCB that doesn't make any sense. We should be doing board level repairs wherever we can.
That
And it's taking a while for companies to realize that they do need to publish the full circuit schematics as well.
Yeah. One thing I find very frustrating, and granted, I look at this not just from a repair perspective, but from a like shopper's perspective, or is especially in the laptop world. I don't know how much this happens in phones and other electronics. Is lack of transparency about the source parts that they're using. So you could buy two identical laptops, and the keyboard could be from different
Yeah.
manufacturer, or the SSD could be from different manufacturer, giving you slightly different performance, or the panel could be slightly different because they multi-source from different manufacturers. So you might win the lottery and get one that's like a little bit brighter than another one. And I feel like that's another thing where um, you're not getting the transparency that you should get.
Right. I'm with you. I don't have an answer to that. Sometimes supply chains are complicated. I mean, even we pull apart two iPhones and you'll have flash memory from Toshiba in one and Samsung in another, right? And that's for good reasons. They want to make sure their supply chain is diverse. But then you've seen cases where some MacBooks have dramatically different performance than the other one. And so, how do you know which one you're going to get? Uh, I don't have an answer. It would certainly be nice if there was just more sharing of the bill of materials, because it's useful, obviously, for purchasing decisions, but it's also useful from a long term. How do you plan a part supply chain if you don't know what the parts are?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, I mean, obviously, it's probably difficult to be able to get down to the, and Apple and others don't want you to say, "Oh, I want the iPhone with the Toshiba memory," because they don't want you to think about that, and there's no way that you'll know which one you're getting, and they're not going to label the box. But I feel like they should be able to tell you if they're using three different suppliers or whatever for the memory, like, here's the models that we're using, right? um, so that you can get an idea of what you might get. But uh, and it's funny how we have certain things that are always disclosed on a spec sheet and certain things that are not. Like they would never think of to not telling you what CPU you are getting, right? Like they don't say, oh, you're getting an Intel CPU. Oh, you're getting a Qualcomm CPU.
Right.
you know they tell you exactly which model you're getting, but they don't tell you which flash memory you're getting. They don't tell you which panel you're getting, right? So I feel like there's room for a lot more transparency. um, but what you
That's why
guys
we build machines ourselves, right? At some point, you want the level of control, you just build it yourself. The challenge is with a smartphone, you can't really do that. You get into smaller form factors and you have less
and the laptop you can't do that. iFixit, not iFixit, I'm sorry,
framework.
Framework, the one you were showing.
Yeah,
If there was an iFixit laptop, it seems like that would be the one. uh,
correct.
but their choice of, like, they make some nice stuff, but their choice of parts is quite limited. Like you don't get a lot of different screens or
Right.
choice of different keyboards or things. Like it's not very you get a lot of, you can change, take things out, but you don't get a lot of replacement choices. um but I give them credit for doing that.
Yeah, I mean,
So
what they're doing is hard, right? And you want to be able to get pricing that makes sense. You have to have enough of a order quantity to justify that. So they have to concentrate on a few storage options and other things to make sure that they have enough volume to be able to get the pricing that makes it work for everybody.
yeah, no question. Well, it's just, what should folks look forward to next from iFixit? Any other big things coming up?
Well, we're really excited about FixHub. So yeah, this is a USB-C device, right? And so I think there's the possibility of making more USB-C tools. Got my power meter plugged into it, but you can see we've got two handy USB ports on the front, so you can use this to power your laptop. You can use it to power your drone charger, whatever you want. 55 watt hour battery that will go with you and power just about anything. That's about the same size as a typical laptop battery these days. It'll power your phone, a few different charges, or use it to power all the Raspberry Pi gizmos that you got on the field, or if you're building or repairing drones. So we're going to be focusing on soldering education. We want to get out and encourage the world. I'd like to teach. Right? How do we go out and teach a million people to solder? How cool would that be? To have more people with that capability. And I remember going to maker fairs, like the learn to solder tent is just jam packed. Everybody wants to learn. So we're going to be doing a lot of education. We're going to be putting on a lot of basic, 101 to advanced soldering repair information on iFixit. We have over 100,000 repair guides on iFixit. Over 2,000 of those, I think, include soldering of some kind. So a very substantial portion of the repairs that people are already needing to do out in the world involve soldering. And so I'm excited to. I kind of think of myself as a soldering ambassador now, joining our friends at Adafruit and SparkFun and Make that have been on this crusade for a long time. We're going to join in and help.
That's great. It's so important for folks to learn that, and I think you've given them a tool that really makes it a lot easier. So Thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to everyone for watching and listening. We'll be back again next week at our usual time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UK time, with another special guest. This has been a real treat. Thank you so much, Kyle, and we hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.